You are furious about something. Right now, maybe politics, your boss, the driver who cut you off, a commercial that insulted your intelligence, a tweet from someone you've never met who holds the wrong opinion about something you didn't care about until 30 seconds ago, and you wake up angry. Scroll angry, eat angry, argue angry, fall asleep angry, and do it again, telling yourself your anger is justified, and it probably is. There's plenty to be angry about, but here's the paradox that will make your blood run cold. The angrier America gets, the less actually changes, because outrage has become a substitute for action, a performance of resistance that lets you feel heroic while changing absolutely nothing. A major study found Americans report being angry or upset about something in the news, an average of 11 times per week, nearly triple what it was a decade ago, and social media engagement on outrage-driven content is 6 times higher than on neutral content because outrage sells, outrage spreads. Outrage feels productive. But outrage is not productivity. Outrage is a drug that gives you the dopamine hit of fighting without the cost of actually fighting. So you post, you like, you share, you comment. Your brain releases the same chemicals it would release if you had actually marched, donated, organized, or voted, except you didn't. You just typed. And the system you're so angry at is perfectly happy to let you type forever, because typing doesn't threaten power. Typing is power's favorite pacifier. The neuroscience here is ancient. Your brain's threat detection system cannot tell the difference between a real threat and a story about a threat. So when you see an infuriating headline, your amygdala fires, cortisol spikes, your body prepares for battle, then you post a rant, and the rant gives you a tiny relief, a dopamine reward for taking action. But the action was fake, the threat remains, and your brain learns that ranting is an acceptable substitute for resisting. So you rant more, do less, feel angrier, and the cycle tightens like a noose. The American twist is that we've turned outrage into a spectator sport. We watch outrage on cable news, stream outrage on podcasts, consume outrage like it's the Super Bowl, have favorite outrage personalities and favorite outrage targets and favorite outrage rituals, and we call this staying informed or fighting back. But staying informed doesn't require fury, and fighting back requires more than sharing, because real resistance is boring. Real resistance is showing up to a city council meeting on a Tuesday night, writing letters, making phone calls, knocking on doors, running for office, organizing a union, starting a mutual aid network. Real resistance is slow, unglamorous, doesn't fit into a tweet, and almost no one does it, so we rage instead. But here's the reversal that will only fully land the second time you sit with it. The only Americans who actually change things are not the loudest, they're the quietest. The ones who log off, the ones who channel anger into strategy instead of spectacle, who understand that outrage is a fuel, not a destination. You can use anger to start a fire, but if you just sit in the smoke, you'll choke, and they ask themselves 3 questions before every outburst. Does this help? Does this build? Does this move the ball? And if the answer is no, they shut their mouths and open their notebooks. Let me tell you about Derek. He was a social justice warrior in the best and worst sense. On Twitter 14 hours a day, ratioing bigots, quote tweeting with fire emojis, building 50,000 followers who thought he was a hero, and nothing changed. Not one policy, not one election, not one material improvement in anyone's life, and he was furious all the time. His blood pressure dangerous, his relationships crumbling, and he told his therapist, "I'm fighting for justice." And the therapist said, "You're fighting for dopamine. Justice is what happens offline." Derek didn't want to hear it, but his body was failing him. So he tried an experiment, 1 week completely offline, no posts, no replies, no doom scrolling, and he felt like he was going to die, but by day 5 something strange happened. He had an idea, a real idea, not a clapback. He realized his local school board had an opening. He applied, got appointed, and within 6 months had helped change a policy that actually affected real children, not through outrage, but through attendance. He still gets angry, he still speaks up, but now when the rage rises, he asks, is this tweet or is this action? And he chooses action more often. Not always. He's human, but enough to sleep at night. The American cognitive paradox sits right here. We have more outrage than any nation in history, and we have less progress, because outrage without strategy is just noise. Noise without organization is just theater, and theater without follow-through is just a way to feel righteous while the world burns, and the only Americans who escape the outrage trap are the ones who learn to feel their anger, honor their anger, and then aim their anger. They don't suppress it. They don't drown in it. They turn it into something that isn't a tweet, because the algorithm wants you furious and paralyzed. A furious, paralyzed population is a controllable population. Right now your brain wants to defend your outrage, but my anger is justified. And sharing raises awareness. Does it raise awareness of what, to whom? And what did awareness ever do without action? The civil rights movement wasn't tweets. The labor movement wasn't likes. The suffrage movement wasn't shares. Those were people who got off the couch into the streets and stayed there until something broke. Awareness is the first step, but Americans have been taking the first step for 20 years and calling it a marathon. The question from the beginning, why are we angry about everything, yet change? Nothing has an answer that only a second viewing fully unpacks. Outrage has been co-opted. It's not a weapon anymore. It's a product. And you've been consuming it like a sugary drink, feeling full but starving, and the only way to win is to log off. Look around and ask, what can I actually do here today with these two hands? Which is not a sexy answer, but it's the only one that works. So if something just shifted, if the impulse sparked to send this to the angriest person you know, the one always posting, always ranting, always furious, but never different, that's not about me. Their hate is fuel, but maybe one sentence will stick, and sharing it is the first action that isn't a performance. Now go do one real thing about something that actually makes you angry. That's an order.